So last night, I surprised myself. I didn't plan on seeing it, but I went to go see Uncharted, the movie of the PlayStation game, which I love. Like, I really, really love these games. They are like true to my heart. Yeah. This is starring Tom Holland, starring Mark Wahlberg. It is directed by Ruben Fleischer. Thank you.
Of Zombieland fame and Venom and other disposable CGI rubbery stuff. I like Zombieland actually, but
I like Zombieland too. Venom, I've seen the first one, and it's just exactly what it looks like, and it's not awful, but it's nothing I have nothing much to remember about it. Surprised Tom Hardy did it.
Anyway, back to you.
Anyway, directed by Ruben Fleischer, thank you. Stars Tom Holland, Mark Wahlberg, Antonio Banderas, Sophia Taylor, Tati Gabrielle, and this film has been stuck in vaporware development hell for a really long time.
What does that mean?
Vaporware is when something is announced as having happened, but it seemingly just completely disappears off the face of the earth. Oh. And it has had directors attached to it, it has had stars attached to it. It actually had Mark Wahlberg attached to play Nathan Drake at one point. Right. It also had Robert De Niro attached to play Sully. David O. Russell was going to direct it. Seth Rogen was once producing it. It was all over the place. But when that first game came out, which is now very aged and dated, it was the cinematic game. It was I remember playing it and I thinking, wow, this is the first time I actually don't want to skip the cutscenes. I want to watch them.
What are these games about?
Uncharted is all about a character called Nathan Drake, and it's essentially a Spielbergian Indiana Jones, but American. Last name Drake because he is said to be a descendant from Sir Francis Drake.
Right.
You didn't know that? Yeah.
No.
Well, no, you've not really played them.
I played one of
it's
them.
all about globe-trotting, puzzle solving, jumping, shooting, climbing. It's like about cheesy villains. It's all about Nathan Drake and the interactions he has, discovering treasure. The early ones used to always have a supernatural element to it, kind of like Indiana Jones would. And the first game happened, it was pretty ropey because it was very old, but especially when you got to Uncharted 2, 3, and 4, they were really, I'd say, as cinematic as any film could be. And when the film first got talked about, I think, again, would have been around 2008, 2009. I thought, wow, yeah, that's such an obvious choice to make a film out of a game. Hollywood would really serve that franchise. As the games went on and they came out, I kind of felt like, actually, these games are as cinematic as any high-budget Hollywood is. The acting is just as good. The technology that they use to pretty much put anything you can imagine to life is there. So when the more and more time went on, there's like 5 or 6 Uncharted games, depending on how you count them, has come out. I'm like, this film doesn't really need to exist. Yeah. They are masterpieces in their own right. And I don't actually think a Hollywood lick of paint would add anything. I actually think it would take it away. And I just worry it wouldn't be very faithful to what it is. Come to this version of it, I see Tom Holland's been cast. He's very sort of in with the Sony Pictures crew, obviously through Spider-Man. And I'm like, okay, wow, like they're going for this younger version of it. I see the trailer and I'm a little bit apprehensive. I'm not gonna lie, I went in with really low expectations for this film. You basically, without retreading the same foots I just told you about Uncharted, Tom Holland plays Nathan Drake, but a much younger version of him. In the games, he's about mid-30s to early 40s, but you see him at about 1920. He's sort of a nomad living in New York as a bartender, and he sort of is pickpocketing. Yes.
I just want to say, when you said at 1920, you meant the age of 1920.
The age of 1920
not the year of
years old.
1920.
Thank you.
We could just talk about Indiana Jones. I'm completely thrown there.
It's modern day. He
day.
is about 19, 20 years old, which is about 15, 20 years younger than he usually is.
Got it.
And you have him sort of doing petty crimes. He's kind of lifting Tiffany bracelets off girls, and he's sort of a little bit of a pickpocket. He grew up with his younger brother, who used to be his older brother, who they both used to be obsessed over this treasure. They're like natural historians who love maps and history and finding out what happened to a lost treasure. Come into the scene Sully, played by Mark Wahlberg, who sees Nathan Drake, this sort of like chancer guy, and he says, listen, I've got a really big score. I want you on this treasure. It's I can't remember what it's called, the What's-Her-Face treasure for $4 billion. And Nathan Drake actually knows all about it because he was obsessing about it with his brother. Right. Comes to it, they go on this adventure together, globe-trotting, puzzle solving, running away. There's double crosses, there's villains that smirk to the camera.
Brilliant. Sounds like a panto.
Yeah, it's National Treasure, Indiana Jones, and a little bit of James Bond.
Got it.
That's exactly what it is. And the film started, and I had my arms folded and my eyebrows raised, and I was like, oh yeah, go on, impress me. I had such a bad attitude going in. And the first 10 minutes, I was like, All right, I'm kind of enjoying this. And you know what? I did mostly enjoy it. It is not perfect. And I could very happily sit here and go through the entire movie and nitpick and go, oh, that's not consistent to the games and that's not true to life. But to give credit to Tom Holland, that guy is really charismatic, and I think he did a good service to that character. Mark Wahlberg as Sully. Just so you know, the character of Sully is meant to be much older than Mark Wahlberg currently is. He's, like I said, Robert De Niro is going to play him. He is a Hawaiian shirt wearing, cigar smoking, God damn it, Nate, talks like that. And it sounds like Mark Wahlberg said, if I'm in it, can I just be Mark Wahlberg? And they said, yeah, all right. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with, Mark Wahlberg's made a whole career of being Mark Wahlberg. I don't think that's a bad thing, but he just sounds really bored.
Oh, no.
He's just kind of doing that thing. Well, hey, Nate, you got to go get the treasure. Or what? Hey, what are you talking about? That's what you got to do. We're going to make it over there. I'm like, you're not really adding to this character, and you do look quite bored. So there is that. And the age thing does throw me because it's like you've not even gone anywhere to the character. The two characters of Nate and Sully are so similar. I'm like, I kept thinking like you should be playing Nathan Drake.
Yeah.
You should be going into it more and playing Nathan Drake, and Tom Holland is just not quite necessarily fitting with the chemistry of it. But I did have a good time with it.
Did you just have a better than expected time, or did you have a good time?
I had a good time.
Okay,
both good and better than expected. I would say if you already didn't care, I wouldn't run out and see it because it's very safe and formulaic. Yeah. Kind of like how The Force Awakens is safe.
No, but
it's a good film.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like that does a bit.
That's probably better film than this.
Look, this film's getting like slithering out in February. Like, I don't know. I don't. I look at it and I think I just don't see any reason for me as an outsider
this is
to
what
watch
I'm saying.
it. And I've actually played one of the games. I played the game that they reference in the film.
They reference all of them pretty much.
With the plane, with the thing. And
yes, 3.
Yeah, great. And that was huge at the time, and I really enjoyed it. But I don't want to see this film.
That's what I'm saying. If you already didn't care, don't bother. If you did care, I'd say you could have a good time with this.
I think it's interesting that with this film, it's made me realize how films now are marketed and sold on social media. Almost like forget what the film's about. Almost forget who's in it.
Oh, not who's in it.
No, forget who's in it. Forget what happens. Just find one joke in the film.
Oh, right.
Extract
it. And loop it on every pre-roll YouTube ad.
And so it becomes... And so it's like all the years of Marvel quipping. They were just like, if we just market those, that's what people love in these films.
Yeah.
So on Instagram, I've seen there's this clip about a cat that keeps coming up about, is that right? There's a cat in it. There's some sort of joke about a cat.
Once.
Yeah. But
literally a
I've seen it more than you have. And you've seen the film.
It's not even a thing for me, but I understand exactly what you're talking about.
And I'm just like, this is so surface level, cynical. Come on, like try and sell the film to me, not just that it. Otherwise, they're basically saying the film is just a collection of lots and lots of millions of bits of content.
Yeah, TikToks.
That's what they're going to say to Gen Z. They're going to be like, it's about 1,000 TikToks long.
You don't want to feel like you've seen the film just because you've been paying attention to the marketing.
Yeah,
which unfortunately is true for a lot of things. But like what I'll give credit to is that it didn't feel like it took itself the right amount of serious. Like, so I gave it a lot more credit. And then I left. I was like, even though this is doing something completely different, it did actually feel like Uncharted. Okay. And that's like what you can ask.
So if you like Uncharted, it's not as bad as you think it is.
Yeah.
But could it have been much better once upon a time?
Ages ago, yeah. Right now, the game is a much better experience because the characters are true to who they are.
We haven't had a good game adaptation, have we, for a film? Ever?
This is probably, I'd have to really have a think, but this is up there with the better of them. They're usually really bad, and I think this is a good time at the cinema.
But with the games, you're like, this is clearly taking inspiration from cinema.
So much.
Why put the genie back in the bottle and be like, let's just turn it back into a film? You know, I tell you what, we're going to have this conversation again when they bring out the Last of Us series.
Oh, because it's made by the same developer named Naughty Dog, which, again, we can get into that another time, but I don't think that needs to be dramatized. It's already enough in its own way. There's something about a game being about like an 8 to 10 hour experience where you control, especially in The Last of Us, which I'll get into, but there is such an ownership over when you control someone and the actions you take. It makes it far more immersive, and that's a whole part of why storytelling is so effective in that medium. But yeah, that's a conversation for another time.
If they brought out a novelization of a film I really liked, I would only read that. I wouldn't expect everyone to read that book. I'd be like, that's just for the fans. And I feel like the same thing with Uncharted. It's like, well, that film is clearly not for me. I hope they're not putting too much money into this because only fans are going to go see that.
And you know what they also did? They did the plane on a map on a dotted red line going to different countries. I was like, really? We're literally. I know you're probably
Indiana
paying
Jones,
homage,
yeah.
but like it was a 3D version of it. I was like, please stop.
God.
Please don't do that. One last thing. I really think that this film is Tom Holland's audition to play a younger James Bond. Because I know that he told that he was writing a script where he pitched to Barbara Broccoli in The Powers That Be that he wanted to make a young James Bond film where he goes from Eton to the SAS.
Like the Charlie Higson books.
Exactly like the Charlie Higson books. What do you make of Tom Holland as a young James Bond in a reboot, if that was to happen?
I don't think it's the most interesting direction they could go in. I think just making him young doesn't make him more interesting.
Do you think they have to reboot it in that way to do it?
No, I think there are many more interesting directions. With a property that's so old, like Bond, you can make that much more interesting than simply going younger. I know it's been relatively unexplored, but
I want
Sorry.
Christopher Nolan to do 3 1950s Bond films, period.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I want. I want 1950s Cold War, period. I want a cohesive trilogy that has a beginning, middle, and end.
You want Nolan to do that?
I'd love Nolan to do the Bond films.
Why Nolan doesn't do period? I mean, Oppenheimer's coming up, but like, does he do
would.
period?
He did The Prestige.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
all right
I
then.
think if he went for it, I think that's what would be really cool.
A trilogy, and all of them like
or it doesn't have to be
Dark Knight.
3. Just like let's tell a story that because my problem with the Sam Mendes ones is they seem to be sort of like clutching around for a
Sure,
loose
yeah.
thread to complete it. If you're going to have the same actor, let's write a series of films that make sense from A, B to C.
And it's set in the original James
And I
Bond
want
era.
it set in the Cold War with whatever, I don't know, Russian stuff, whatever. Like, go back to some of the old books and really take from that and take me back to that time where we're not worried about lasers and gadgets and take me out. James Bond, Craig's Bond was about how relevant is James Bond in the modern era. Do you need the man behind the gun when we've got drones and spy planes and cell phones? Take it back. Give it to Nolan.
I like that idea.